Hello, passengers, and welcome aboard the TV Pilot's License with service to the Scottish Highlands. We ask that you please fasten your headphones, secure your podcasting device, and remember that if you find yourself hypothetically back in time over a century and see someone that looks like your partner or spouse, run!
Welcome to the TV Pilot's License. My name is Geoff Kerbis, joined by Max Singer. Max, how you doing?
I am so excited for the Outlander episode of the podcast, Jeff. I cannot wait, laddie.
And I'm here to tell the audience, Max is only going to be speaking like this. This is, oops, all Scottish accents. Well, Max, this week we are going to be talking about Outlander. And this is a particularly special episode because we let the audience pick and our frequent flyers pick what we are listening to. And if you want to pick maybe what we're doing next, follow us on Instagram, follow us on all the socials. But Max, for the folks who are here for the first time or the folks who have been here and are frequent flyers, what is this podcast all about?
Yeah, this one in a landslide in our audience poll. Good God. Here at TV Pilot's License, we break down and analyze the pilot episodes of some of TV's most famous, or in some cases, infamous shows. We learn more about how these shows came to be and were originally made, if they're effective pilot episodes and making us want to watch more, and if we think they'd be made today. Go back and stream our old episodes from wherever you listen to podcasts. Check us out on YouTube and TikTok to see our smiling faces. Check us out on Reddit at r/TVPL to debate us. And if it is your first time flying with us, then welcome aboard.
And you know what? Let's just, before we dive too deep into Outlander and our first romantasy show, which I can't believe I'm saying that sentence out loud, a quick word from our sponsor.
Hey there, frequent flyers. This week's episode is brought to you by Riverside. Riverside has been the go-to platform for TV Pilot's License when it comes to recording this podcast. You can record crystal clear audio and video all in one place, and when you're done, Riverside makes it super easy to edit your show and put together pre-formatted clips for social media promotion. Not a podcaster? Not a problem. Riverside is fantastic for hosting live streams, creating educational content, putting together marketing materials, interviews, and so much more. So whether you're looking to finally get that podcast idea off the ground or take your show to the next level, Riverside is the platform for you. Get started by clicking the Riverside link in the description of today's episode.
Well, before we talk too much about Outlander, a quick synopsis. This epic tale, adapted from Diana Gabaldon's popular book series of fantasy romance novels, focuses on a World War II combat nurse who travels back in time, which, yes, I think that covers everything that we talked about, or that we watched at least in this pilot. But Max, can you tell us a little bit more about how this show was made?
Today we are talking about the pilot episode of Outlander titled Sassenach, which originally aired on August 9th, 2014 on Starz, and the show's creator Ronald D. Moore a bit. Moore broke onto the scene in a way so many of us can only dream of by passing off a script he wrote to a writer's assistant while touring the set of Star Trek The Next Generation. That screenwriter, Gene Roddenberry, helped Moore secure an agent and submit the script through proper channels, where it was purchased a few months later. Moore would go on to become a staff writer and story editor on the series. Moore would stay in the Star Trek family as a writer-producer on Deep Space Nine and Voyager. Post-Star Trek, he developed the TV series Battlestar Galactica and worked on Roswell and Carnival as a writer and producer. More recently, Moore is behind the Apple TV original For All Mankind. The Outlander book series, written by Diana Gabaldon, was Gabaldon. Was first released in 1991, and as of its most recent installment in 2021, contains 9 novels. Combined, the books have sold over 50 million copies worldwide. In 2012, Sony Pictures Television secured the rights to the book series and brought on Moore to develop the project as part of his overall deal with the company. The rights to the series were sold to Starz, who greenlit it with a 16-episode order. At the time, Starz was leaning heavy into genre projects, greenlighting several alongside Outlander, including Spartacus, Marco Polo, Black Sails, The White Queen, and Da Vinci's Demons. In writing the pilot, Moore said the first 30 to 40 minutes of this episode are things that are not from the book or are compilations of things from the first book, which makes up all of Season 1. Today's episode is directed by John Dahl, an acclaimed cable director who is best known for helming the Matt Damon, Edward Norton poker drama Rounders, which unequivocally whips ass.
Yeah, no, I was about to say, if we were a movie podcast, boy, would we have done that already.
Okay, Bill Simmons.
Yeah. Yeah, find us on Netflix, hopefully at some point soon. It is so amazing, infuriating to hear how Moore was able to get that first script picked up. Just like, live long and prosper, motherfucker. Like,
Yeah,
are you
seriously.
fucking kidding?
Oh, you went on the backlot tour and you started handing pages to pages?
It's what, like, I went to that IHOP in California that Quentin Tarantino sometimes frequents and just threw a script at him with a fruity tooty, fresh and fruity. Are you fucking kidding me?
The lore of where Tarantino wrote scripts has gone from like the Denny's on Sunset to House of Pies in Los Feliz to, I don't know, an IHOP.
He's just there. He's chilling. But
Man loves breakfast food.
Who doesn't? I mean, Max, let's open up this pilot and talk a little bit more about this show. And we start off in what seems to be a flashback after. Who doesn't have a flashback when they're looking at vintage items or items that they might put or furnish a home in? And you know what I like to have flashbacks of personally is helping someone whose leg is just goddamn gone in World War II, because what an opening scene to like grab us and bring us into this world.
Yeah, I think what this show does more than anything else is exposition.
Yes.
If you like exposition and panoramic shots of the Scottish Highlands, have we got a pilot for you? Because Outlander combines VO throughout, flashback sequences, and like heavy spoken in real time what we are doing exposition dialogue. Like, it is just constantly making sure that you are aware of everything happening around you at all times.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you like you're going to love Outlander. I invite you to participate in this game. If you like Ancestry.com and you also like to listen on books on tape, boy, are you going to like Outlander, because the beginning of this is just, it's a lot of genealogy. It's a lot of beautiful Scottish Highlands like imagery. And like, boy, did this just seem like a Nat Geo, like documentary almost, and that happened to also have some beautiful horny people in
If
it.
you wish that your hospital nurse talked like Carrie Bradshaw voiceovers, you will like the pilot of Outlander.
But we start off with this World War II victory day, right? The day that they found out the war was over, sipping champagne, but then being flash forward so quickly into this honeymoon sequence with what seems to be, at this point in time, our two main characters, or at least our main protagonists. And I mean, Max, I'm curious about you. What do you think about our female protagonists in the show?
So I think this character of Claire is fascinating. She is a yearning young woman. She seems a little bit more modern than like post World War II, 20th century England. And I think we get three things off the bat that are important to know about Claire through all this exposition. We know that she is a skilled nurse. We know that she has not seen her husband for more than 10 days in the past 5 years, and that she has this sense of like yearning for more in life. We get this scene of her staring at a vase in the window of a store, doing this window shopping, and kind of expressing this yearning for more, this Belle from Beauty and the Beast, the I want adventure in the Great White Somewhere, this sense of like, I want more than the provincial life. I've seen the world and I want to explore and have nice things and build this home and build this family. And there is kind of this newness that we have to rekindle with this second honeymoon, as we call it, with her husband in the Scottish Highlands.
And I mean, we are brought into the Scottish Highlands, and you mentioned the idea of the exposition. What do you think of surrounding us in this lore of pagan and Gaelic tradition, and it very much explaining for everyone in the audience, in case they're not up to snuff on that history, what in the world is happening in this small village?
Yeah, you know that you're going to see something in this little village outside of Inverness. There is magic and mystery and druids and black magic and paganism and all of these things that are going to come into play. And so we're leaning very heavy into there is magic and mysticism within these mountains, and then also this obsession that her husband Frank has with this like generation of, a couple hundred years back. So we're talking a lot about a period of time, and we're talking a lot about magic and mysticism. And we're not really talking about pretty vases in the window anymore. Like, we are talking about some things that you're kind of like, all right, we're talking a lot about spooky stuff. When are we going to get spooky?
There's a lot of hints as far as when are we going to get to the thing? When are we going? We keep on nodding. Oh, go ahead.
Like,
go ahead.
I mean, we're just going to say the Simpsons line. Like, when are we going to get to the fireworks factory?
Yeah, exactly. No, we constantly reference witches, and we constantly reference like there's so much reference, and I think I've never been hit over the head more with like, hey, coming up in a few minutes, we're going to see something spooky happen to Claire because a witch tells her in a kitchen that she has 2 lifelines going on at the same damn time.
We're talking about tea leaves, we're reading palm lines, and we're not doing that thing where you say they're going to have a swimming pool and you spit in their palm. We're in an old spooky castle saying, wow, I bet like my great-grandfather walked through these same hallways. Like, we're alluding to all of these things from the past and magic. We got to kind of bash them together. Also, side note, this is the second episode in a row where there's been like a sex scene in a pretty gnarly place between Industry and the nightclub bathroom and Outlander, where they're in like the spooky dungeon room of the castle. Like, people are fucking in some weird places lately.
Well, I'd like to, Matt, we have done some horny TV shows, and I would love for you to sort of like, on the pantheon of horny TV shows that we have done, where do you think we rank this Outlander show? And then a secondary question, what do we think of Claire's husband, John, played by Tobias Menzies in this show? Because he definitely seems, what do you want to call it? Distracted, especially by genealogy when his wife is throwing herself at him at every
hold on.
chance.
You called him John. I'm pretty sure that's Frank. Are you saying that Tobias Menzies plays another character who also looks like Claire's husband? Because that'd be crazy, Geoff.
That would be insane. Why would a show ever do that? But what do you think of Frank in this instance? And answer my first. Don't avoid my first question. How horny is this show?
Claire is just constantly throwing himself at this man who's like, no, honey, my books, my scrolls, my maps, my tapestries, no. I do have an issue to pick with Frank wearing his shoes on the bed the first time they hook up in that hotel. That's a big no-no, Frank. I don't appreciate that. I don't necessarily think this is the horniest pilot. Sure. I do think that it is a rather, at least between Claire trying to rekindle this relationship and begin a family, a forwardly sexual show, but not necessarily horny. But I don't know. This guy just wants to do so many activities on the trip, and he's just planned out so much stuff. He's left no time for getting it on with his wife.
I was having a fun conversation with a friend, and we were like, the vibe of a couple when they based off of how they vacation, right? And if you want to do the vacation where you're just, having a good time and not having to be places, go on a tropical vacation. Now, is that an available option for everyone in England in the 1940s? No. But also, if your husband is like so fucking pumped about genealogy and he's like, we have to go here for our honeymoon because of genealogy, that might be a sign that he might not be interested in, having sex with you as much as you are interested in having sex with the aforementioned husband.
Yeah, but he was willing to go down to that dirty old castle. So I mean, we got to give some credit to Frank.
That might be as between the Industry club sex scene and having sex in a dingy castle, or other sexual activities. That was the one where I was like, this might be the second or worst place that we've watched something like this happen by far.
A lot of tetanus vibes happening lately.
Well, I do want to move us forward because we mentioned, when are we going to get to the fireworks factory? And for a pilot that is an hour and 3 minutes long,
Ooh, buddy.
boy, is the pacing of this show something when we are in current times. But as soon as we see, and I guess a question for you, we see this pagan ritual to start the morning that they go and almost treat as if it's a tourism destination, like you're trying to see the bats go out from under the bridge in Austin, Texas from afar. And I mean, did you like I thought it was actually a really well shot scene for what it was, which wasn't like the most majestic thing, but it's the Scottish Highlands. I feel like I could watch anything.
The pagan ritual dance and the opening credits for this show really remind me of some of the syndicated TV shows we've done in the past, like some of the 90s syndication.
Is this
like,
Xenon Warrior
this
Princess?
Really is,
like,
this
yeah.
is Xena Warrior Princess. This absolutely had the same filming style and energy of just like bigger budget 90s Xena. That's not a bad thing.
No.
I mean, those shows are very successful. I mean, I appreciate seeing the magic and mysticism happening. It's a well choreographed sequence.
Mm-hmm.
I do have to knock that we don't get to the thing, the inciting incident of this pilot until 35 minutes in. Like, we don't deal with the mysticism, and I'm just gonna say it, time travel, until the 35-minute mark. And that is a long time to have Nebbish Frank going, my books, before we finally get somewhere.
All right, so we did start this show with like seeing a flashback in the traditional sense of something someone's already experienced. I guess I'm curious for you, would you have rathered maybe a flash forward to a flashback instead to maybe help with the pacing of this show a little bit more?
I mean, I don't mind it starting in real time. I don't mind understanding where Claire came from and why her and Frank haven't seen each other much for the last 5 years. I just think that we could have gotten to this point sooner than 35 minutes.
Yeah.
Because by the time we're finally watching Claire in this field approach those obelisks, and I'm going, girl, don't touch those obelisks, we are more than halfway through an hour-plus long cable show.
Yeah, to go back to the sacred stones that were magically put there by giants for some forget-me-nots and then be like, ooh, that obelisk is humming, I should definitely touch it.
Girl,
Claire,
don't
I'm not on your side anymore.
don't touch that obelisk.
You deserve to go back in time, Claire. That is your fucking fault. How dare you? And I know, Max, we're going to go back in time. And I guess this is in my notes. Did you notice that there was an entire shift in how this pilot was paced, how this pilot was shot once we went back in time? Because I found it pretty stark in this instance of like, holy shit, like, this feels like an entirely different show that we're watching right now, as opposed to the first 35 minutes of this show.
Yeah, the first half of this feels very BBC Masterpiece Theater, and then it starts to feel like a fantasy show really quick.
Yeah, and I mean, we see Claire avoiding... I don't know what I expected the British soldiers to be wearing, but when they were wearing the red coats, I was like, oh... She got sent back to like Concord, Massachusetts in 1776. Seeing
them in red coats is honestly kind of jarring to me. It's like, it's not just a name. This is going to be dumb, but it's like we had, paintings and stuff. We know that's what they wore.
Yeah.
There is documentation, but in my head, it's also like, this is just kind of how we've always drawn them. Sort of how like we don't really know what dinosaurs looked like. We just assume, and this is kind of now what the picture of dinosaurs are. We don't know what British soldiers looked like in the 1700s. We just assume they had red coats.
The American ego in me of just being like, well, they only wore those in the Revolutionary War. They'd never wear those again.
Exactly,
It's like New Jerseys for athletic teams where you're like, oh, that was for that season and only that season. Like, they definitely wore something different.
Oh, they were wearing throwbacks for the American Revolution?
I mean, what we sort of referenced it, and I did so mistakenly. What do we think about the choice of having Tobias Menzies play his character's ancestor? This character that is, in the first half of this show spoken so highly of as this hero, it sounds like, as this war hero, only to see this person with the same face as your husband betray you instantly as if it is second nature to them. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that choice.
I think it's a fascinating choice to have Tobias Menzies play both of these roles. I do like it. I think it adds some stakes to the honest-to-God villain of the show, because this character of John, Blackjack Randall, as he's referred to, is vile. Like, this is one of the most villainous characters I feel like we've covered in some time on this podcast. And to have Claire look that man in the eye as a villain and someone who tries to assault her when she is still adjusting to these surroundings, she's trying to rekindle her marriage with her husband. I do think it adds extra stakes to how is she going to navigate this world, and if our question is, how do I get back from this world, how is that going to impact her when she does come back to present day and has to look that man in the eye again? Like, how will that affect your relationship? And that's a really fascinating dynamic to craft.
And not to belittle the impact of that moment and the potential assault that almost happened, but just a spoiler alert, if someone's nickname is Blackjack, they might not be a good guy. I'm just gonna say that out loud. When I heard his nickname was Blackjack, I had marked in my notes, I don't think that's that complimentary of a nickname. And I would be a little bit concerned if someone nicknamed me that.
Well, I can't believe John Dahl did successful projects on both blackjack and poker.
But, we don't only mean Blackjack in this instance. Claire is rescued by the druids of the Highlands.
That man got bonked.
Yeah, no.
She was saved by a bonk on the head.
And just a man screaming druids at her that she maniacally follows.
Like a Pokemon.
Yeah, it was but we go to this cabin, and this is where, at least for me, I thought that this pilot started to continue to progress outside of a BBC documentary into more of a show with characters that I might be interested in this sense. And I'm wondering if you got that same sense.
I absolutely did, because now we're building this fish out of water story. We have this woman from the future who cannot reveal her truth, who is trying to navigate a strange new world, strange new circumstances, potentially threatening circumstances.
Yeah.
And I think that seeing her in this cabin, having to assist and deal with a dislocated shoulder, dislocated elbow on this man who we're meeting, this man of this clan in the house, who we reveal to be this character of Jamie. How does she know how to do this? Is she a witch? Is she a psychic? How does this woman know how to do medicine? And we're starting to bring more of Claire's personality into it. We're raising the stakes, and I agree. The back half of this is a much more interesting pilot than the front half.
Yeah, it definitely, I like the idea of, rather than Claire just being, I hate to use the term useless, but flailing in this instance, just what am I to do in my surroundings? I hate to also compare this to another time travel piece, but she Marty McFly's the situation, right? She shows her usefulness. She uses her knowledge in a way that establishes her credibility. And she does it twice. And I think that is to her benefit, but also we see as a drawback to her.
But I think what you're saying is a very astute observation, which is the flashback at the beginning establishes that Claire had purpose. And when she takes that swig of champagne on V-Day, it is a little delayed. There is some sadness in it too, because now she no longer has that purpose, and now she is just the soon-to-be professor's wife. Yeah. And she is resigning herself to starting a family with this man who she's really lost contact with in the thick of her life. And in going back in time, in touching that obelisk, she now is allowed to have that sense of purpose again. and she is finding the ability to like do medicine again. Like she could be useful. She could use that part of herself.
Yeah, I mean, we end this pilot though in a way that I think is important. We started by reviewing all these ancient sites, and we end it with this idea of this is the castle, that they were so curious of what was happening in all of these rooms and what was happening surrounding this castle, only for Claire to feel as though she's been there, not even with her visit with Frank, but in another instance, in a very interesting flash forward to flashback to flashback, is the only way I can describe that. So how do you feel at the end of this, and are you curious at all?
I mean, I gotta be frank. Sorry, I didn't mean it like that. I want to sum up and tie it back to my Carrie Bradshaw analysis with two voiceover lines that Claire says. And it's the last line of, I knew my journey had only just begun. And earlier on, when she says, I knew in my heart I was no longer in the 20th century. Like Carrie
And
Bradshaw
just like that.
ass dialogue. And just like that, I knew I was no longer in the 20th century. Claire is hilarious to me. But yeah, I this is a very narrative story. This is not a pilot that puts a neat little bow on it. It is a chapter of sorts. And it's not really a pilot that can exist without everything that is to come after. There's not that this is our presentation of this. It is very much like, well, this shit's greenlit for 16 episodes. Like, let it ride. I don't know if you felt the same way or if you had any thoughts.
So often we do pilots where it is the, like, a really good example of a recent one was Don't Trust the Bee in Apartment 23, where if that was a singular episode that we discussed, and it was, you know, a studio exec saw it and was like, not for us, fuck it. Like, then we all would have been like, yeah, they finished the story. It is a good pilot can be treated as a short story. And this very much leaves you on the idea of, all right, prepare for chapter 2, which will come out next week, and doesn't leave you with any sense of mystery of, well, she definitely gets back, right? Like this, it doesn't leave any question to me of next episode 2 is happening. It's when.
I do think we need to take a moment to address the hunky Scotsman in the room, and we need to discuss this.
Dougal? You want it?
Yeah, I really want to get into Dougal Mackenzie and his tiny little hats.
Yeah.
No, we need to get into Jamie Fraser. We need to get into this character of Jamie.
Well, I mean, I'm curious for you, because I know there was a purpose of making sure that the chemistry between Frank and Claire was forced in this sense. They are trying to show a marriage that was, you know, and a relationship that dealt with distance for sure. But my dear God, would I have loved to have been in the room for the chemistry reads between these two actors, because I thought they had like instantaneous. I've never seen a woman put a man's shoulder and forearm back in place and been like, yeah, they're gonna fuck right after this.
Yeah,
like,
that's a very large, broad Scotsman, and then she also just like absolutely manhandled that
dominates the man to the point where he looks at her and he's like, oh, like he has that look of like, I didn't know I was into this.
I was laughing though as we get to know Jamie, because everyone else in this clan of his, like everyone else on this manor that he stays at, are all like dirty and disheveled and have all this facial hair, and he looks like he is on the cover of a romance novel.
Yeah.
He has perfectly feathered hair. It blows in the breeze. I think both his face and chest are clean shaven. It is just so funny seeing him compared to Dougal and everyone else that we meet in this house and in these scenes.
Yeah, for our audience, if you're confused by this, and if you have not watched it on Netflix, that's where you can find it for sure. But like, it almost looks like this actor, you know, Sam Heughan, had a trailer, and then they told the rest of the actors who were playing druids and you know, these Outlanders in this instance, yeah, no, you're gonna camp out at night for the next week, and then Sam's just gonna show up and he's gonna be perfectly coiffed in this situation.
Yeah, like he's got eye patches on to like make sure there's no bags in between shoots. Like he's just, this man is so well groomed and manicured compared to everyone else in these Highland scenes that it is so clear that he is the romantic interest and that we are leaning into, as Claire says, I knew my journey had only just begun.
Yeah, this isn't a Challenger scenarios where there's like multiple men that Claire might be interested in. They very much were like, we need to make sure there's only one man and one man.
Oh, you're not a Klugel shipper. You're not a Claire and Dougal shipper.
I am a Claire and Dougal shipper, but I think Claire needs to understand the finer things in life to be able to understand that Dougal might be
Carrie
the man.
Bradshaw had her like boyfriend of the episode every week for stretches there. It could be a similar thing.
Very different show if she's just going from druid to druid in the entire green light that show. Give me that Outlander fan fiction at least. Well,
Scots in the city.
Oh. Well, Max, that is the pilot of Outlander. But I want to hear, were there any things you loved about this pilot? Maybe some things that you want to give a little bit more shine to?
Oh man, goodness. Voiceover narration during a sex scene is very, very funny to me. That's really delightful. Everything that happens in the palm reading and tea leaves with this witchy woman is delightful. Also, just the shot of the purple flowers against everything else being gray in the druid dance obelisk sequence. I love that little like trick of we put a pop of color against something drab to show it has significance. Shout out to my boy
Titian for finding colors that excite the eyes. Yeah, for me, they said "whore" like throughout. When they said "whore," I just was like, yes, that is the only way we should be pronouncing that word. But in a more serious note, the cinematography for the show is gorgeous. And I know you're working with a stacked deck, right? Like you have the Scottish Highlands to be able to film against, and they're absolutely gorgeous. But
yeah, they're doing a lot of heavy lifting for you.
They're doing so much lifting, but like, damn, is this show, you could listen to this, you could watch the show on mute and just be having a good time vibing, in all honesty, because it is one of those things where like it's just pretty to look at. And I think that if executives weren't thinking like, oh, where are we filming it? Scottish Highlands? Oh, I don't know. Like, no, like that would have sold me instantaneously of, yeah, we can do that for sure. And we'll talk a little bit more about why they filmed exactly in the Scottish Highlands as well. What about wait a minute moments? Things that cause you pause? Because I think there are opportunities for us to do so, but I want to hear from you.
I mean, we've hit on this a few times, but this is a 64-minute runtime, and we don't get into our inciting incident until after the 35-minute mark. I understand you have to do a certain degree of due diligence with understanding your plot and your world, but the first half of this pilot, to me personally, really drags on, and I think we can establish Claire and Frank, why Frank is there, the magic, and get to the fireworks factory a little quicker than 35 minutes.
Yeah, and I think we spoke about that, in a decent amount of the idea of, especially if this is not how the book was written, I'm curious why they thought it was necessary to do all of that exposition. Like,
my guess is that because season 1 is the entire first book in the series. So I would guess that you are trying to not have to go back to it later on. And I haven't seen any more of Outlander, so I could be off base here. That's just an assumption. But if I were writing this and I had 16 episodes to draw from for this book, and I wanted to just get to the Highlands and the Hunky Scotsman and Claire's journey, I would probably try to get all of the other stuff out of the way. And if that means, well, we've already got 16 episodes guaranteed, we're just going to knock it out in the first 30 minutes, then maybe that's a sacrifice that you make.
Yeah. I have a really dumb wait a minute moment, Max, and it's just a note that I wrote that I was just like, okay, great. And that's when Frank goes down on Claire. I just wrote, and that was the invention of cunnilingus. And it's just so dumb, but I had to say it out loud.
I'm gonna throw a really dumb things I love that because I forgot about this. When none of the Scotsmen can understand any of the medical jargon that Claire uses, but they all get so excited when she says alcohol.
Thank you so much for reminding me. Claire refusing to admit to herself that she is back in time is also something that I'm just like, girl, you are back in time. Your car is missing. There is no road. Admit to yourself that you are just using like all of this language and all of these futuristic terms to people that have no idea what's happening.
That's why I keep going back to, I knew in my heart I was no longer in the 20th century. Do 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 do.
Well, we do have one more question, Max, and we have an in-flight question. And I'm not surprised, right? We asked folks on Instagram this week what show you wanted to do, and we had responses as far as in-flight questions. This week's in-flight question comes to us from MK, and MK asked, if you traveled through the stone, when and where would you want to travel to? So there's a couple of ways you could take this, right? You could take this as to, I want to see something really cool. Hopefully I get to come back. Maybe you travel back to the time that you think you could be the most successful or thrive in the most, a Marty McFly or a Claire situation. So I'm curious, where are you traveling back in time to?
So full disclosure, MK is my wife, and we always joke about, hi, honey, wanting to listen to Hootie and the Blowfish's Cracked Rear View in real time when it just came out. So I'm going to July of 1994 so
Holy
we can
shit.
sit on a patio and blast Hootie and the Blowfish Cracked Rear View, the diamond-selling record, in the summertime, cold drink in hand, and experience it as it was meant to be experienced.
Low-key, that does truly sound absolutely wonderful, just in all senses of the word. For myself, I think that I'm also traveling back to the 1990s, probably 1997 in all honesty, because and it's also for music reasons. I think that there was just something so special about pop culture in that point in time. I also have all of the knowledge of the stock market in 1997 that I would hypothetically.
Oh, you're gonna hot tub time machine it?
I'm gonna biff this situation.
You're gonna biff. Oh yeah, you picked the more cultural reference than I did.
I'm gonna biff this situation, and I am going to make so much money before the .com boom bust, and just, you know what? Make sure that my family is set for the rest of their days. And who knows, I might own Google at this point in time.
Well, I got an extra seat on the patio if you want to hear some Hootie with it.
Hell yeah, brother.
What? Did you all expect us to say something more cultural and sound?
Yeah, no, I'm sorry, but one of the thoughts that I had when I saw this question is well, I'm a white straight man, so pretty much most times are okay for me.
Wait, what pop star was it? Was someone asked, I think BB Rexa, this on Twitter or Instagram, what time period would you go back to? And she said Paris 1940s, and it's girl, no.
Yeah, no, you're gonna have a straight up bad time.
You're gonna have a bad time there.
You're gonna have a really bad time. Well, MK, thank you so much for that in-flight question. Let's, if you want to submit an in-flight question to the show, you can submit those at our Instagram. You can also go to tvpilotslicense.com, and you can also shoot us a text or leave us a voicemail at 213-290-1713. Let's talk a little bit more about the history of the show. This show has 8 seasons and 92 episodes. This 8th season will be the final season of this show, which was actually delayed because of the SAG-AFTRA strikes when it was set to originally film. But you know what? Appreciate a show that is filmed in the UK for taking that time and taking that delay and honoring that union strike in general. So after the pilot for the show was released, the network actually immediately, the next day, announced that the show was already renewed for another 13 episodes because it saw great viewership. We'll talk about that in a sec. This show, very similar to Heated Rivalry, is a government-funded show, which is insane. The UK and the Scottish governments both found ways of helping to fund making sure that this show was filmed in there. They actually took a warehouse complex and stripped it down to make sure that it was set for filming specifically for them in the Highlands area, which is really, really freaking cool. I talked about viewership a little bit earlier, and let's talk about viewership. And I want you to keep in mind the numbers we just did for industry, which that was a show that premiered to maybe 90,000 people, I think I said in that first episode. This show premiered to 0.72 million people on Stars, which is probably, of those networks, maybe one of the lesser viewed ones. But that first season went up to 1.04 million on average, which is pretty great. Now, Max, I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what time slot the original Outlander season was?
Oh, God. Fridays at 9 p.m.?
What about Saturday at 9 p.m.? Does that sound like does that sound like a good time slot for you? Because this show started on Saturday at 9 p.m. Then for the second and third season, it was moved to Sunday at 8, which is much better, but you're competing against so much. HBO, Fox, football. There's a lot of stuff.
To be a cable, like a prestige cable network, and to be like Sundays at 8, we're going to put on our big tentpole show directly against when HBO is airing whatever their big tentpole show is. Like that's some chutzpah on the part of Stars.
Now, here's the wild part, Max. The show's viewership went up. Even with that, even with all those challenges, it went up to 1.5 million viewers an episode, which is incredible. If you told someone, hey, I'm going to move you and you get 50% more viewers on average and we have streaming, you're going to do that 100% of the time. It did end up moving after season 6, where it went to 9 p.m. and then season 7, it went back to that 8 p.m. slot. I do not know when it will be showing for season 8. So if you're a big Outlander head, first, welcome to the podcast. But secondly, I'm sorry, I'm not that informative. Let's talk a little bit about awards. This show was nominated for a total of 90 different awards and won 33 of them. It actually includes Emmy nominations, 3 different Emmy noms, some for music, some for choreography, 6 different Golden Globes, but the show has won multiple Critics' Choice Awards, People's Choice Awards, and Saturn Awards as well. So definitely a really fun history to look at, and hopefully, a little bit more history to be made with this final season of this show. But Max, before we end this flight and end this episode, I have 2 questions for you, and I may also potentially have a new segment for you depending on your answers. The first question is, based off of the pilot and the pilot alone, would you watch more Outlander? Right? We said that it was a little bit slow, but then it picked up in that second half. So I could see good arguments for both. And then the second is, this is our first romantasy show, right? This is straight romantasy. This is, you're at an airport, you pick out a book and you're like, oh, hell yeah. There's one that I know, I forget what it's called, but it's Centaur-based romantasy that is one of the most listened to things on Spotify right now.
Sure, you don't know what it's called.
Me and everyone else. But, do you want more romantasy on TV? Because it did pretty well. Like, we're talking about 8 seasons of TV and 92 episodes for something like this. So I'm going to let you start.
For me, this is one that I'm going to pass on. I think that this pilot just did not do enough to draw me in terms of its pacing. I think that the mystery is fun. I can understand why people are really into it, but for me, this just did not do enough to captivate me and have me excited for what was to come. As for the romantasy question, the people demand syndicated TV shows. They demand more of these big fantasy type things. I think that we are seeing, and I wouldn't say the romantasy, but like we're seeing all of these spin-offs of Game of Thrones. I know there's a spin-off of this show, Outlander, that is currently in development to come out, I believe soon, if it hasn't already. I do think that as we also see the effects of like book talk and things like that, like people really getting into these novelizations and like these book series and wanting to see their adaptations, there will continue to be a place for this. I would actually say it's probably more of an emerging TV market than a lot of things. So I would suspect we'll see more of it in the future.
Well, Max, you triggered it. Our new segment, which is Devil's Advocate. I want you to be the devil's advocate for why you think this show should absolutely be a watch after watching the pilot.
Oh man, you want me to hit it back from the other perspective?
Yeah.
Oh man, I got 3 words for you, buddy. Big, hunky Scotsman. Have you seen this guy? He could break you in half like a twig. That is the largest man I've ever seen on my TV at some point, and he stood so close to that little British waif of a woman named Claire, and I just have to know what's going to happen. He is throwing her over the back of a horse. They are going on an adventure. They are absolutely going to do it in the Highlands. I am sorry, Frank. Enjoy your books, you dork.
Well, Max, thank you for appeasing me in this instance. Let me give my answers. As far as based off of the pilot and the pilot alone, I think if this show was just based off of the final 30 minutes of it, I would be an absolute yes. I think that it hits really hard. Even if it was based off of the first 3 minutes and then the final 30 minutes, we had a tight little 33-minute pilot, I'd be a hell yeah. It's the exposition of this show is tough. And also, I didn't really talk about it, but I think Claire is a little bit hard to root for in certain instances because there are people trying to help her, trying to make sure that she is safe. And boy, is she doing everything she fucking can to not be safe in these instances. And like at a point, it starts to become like, Claire, do you want to die? You lived through World War II. Congratulations. I think you would want to continue living in this instance and not die in the 18th century. With that being said, as far as more romanticy, I don't know if there's a TV deal yet for A Court of Thorns and Roses, but like I wouldn't be surprised if there is. There is such a yearning for books like that, for Fourth Wing, that like is overwhelming. And maybe it's just because people are more public and more forward about reading these things, but there is such a fandom associated with them that like, yeah, if I'm an executive, I'm looking at Outlander and saying there is an audience for this. Where is the right place to meet them, and how much am I willing to do this? Like, we just had Wuthering Heights, which is like basically the original romantic book that was like in theaters with like a big old cast associated with it. Maybe we go into these book series more in this television realm and enjoy it. I will be my own devil's advocate. Yeah, boy, is this show horny. Hell yeah. Am I also intrigued by The Scotsman? Yes. And I actually just like watch this show on mute. It is gorgeous. Holy shit. Like truly, I was just vibing and being like, how much does it cost to fly to Scotland right now so I can enjoy this lush greenery? But Max, that is our flight. But before we go, I want to make sure that folks can find either of us wherever we want to be found. So, Max, where can folks find you?
You can find me window shopping for fancy faces and on all things social media at Maxwell Singh.
And you can find me in dingy castles also with no underwear on. But if you're looking for me on social media, you can find me at Run Geoff Run. You can find the TV Pilot's License anywhere you listen to podcasts. You can also see our smiling faces on YouTube. You can chat directly with us on our subreddit, r/TV Pilot. Or TVPL, excuse me. And you can follow us anywhere at TV Pilot's License. If you have a question about the show or for our next episode, you can always shoot those to us at tvpilotslicense.com or give us a call and leave us a voicemail at 213-290-1713. Yes, we do play those on the show, so take a few tries. I always pick the best recording, I promise. Make sure to watch out for some of the stuff we have coming up, including polls for what our next episode should be. But with the plane landed and the seatbelt sign off, we look forward to flying the bright skies of the TV world with you again soon. Until next time, keep your eyes on the skies and your fingers on the dial.
Outlander podcast.